Welcome to Farm Here Daily, a Field Forward podcast. I'm your host, David Geiger. Today on Farm Here Daily, there are some tough decisions to be made in the current grain economy. Michael Weidner with Landus has details about marketing. Then, Reese Drenth of Ground Level Dispatch goes over the state of the cash market. Please be sure to like and follow the podcast as well as our social media at Field Forward Pod. We would love to have you join our community, keeping folks informed about what is affecting our farmers. This is Farm Here Daily. And joining me on Farm Here Daily, we have Michael Weidner, Grow Grain Team Lead with Landus. Michael, so glad to have you here on the program. And we're going to go into a bit of a tougher discussion today, but it needs to be talked about because it's important to our farmers as well as their mental health as well. And that is just the grain economy right now and decisions that need to be made. Michael, what are you looking at from your perspective on how farmers should be handling this and taking each day step by step?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, David. I appreciate the time and an opportunity to visit about grain markets today and trying to help some farmers navigate a little bit of a grain marketing roller coaster here. We haven't had much of a grain marketing opportunity in the summer like we typically get in May, June, July. And, looking at where we're at to finish the month of July, and as we look forward to August, we're into some pretty ugly price levels relative to some cost of production stuff. So, one of the things we try to do here at Landus, and my role to lead our team of buyers, is to make this decision making a little bit more mechanical and less emotional, right? I mean, tensions are high. We've got cash prices below the cost of production. And really, it's just trying to get guys to think differently with a business mindset and, thinking in bets, coming up with a marketing plan, especially with harvest right around the corner. And, thankfully, what looks like a pretty good crop in the state of Iowa. The good Lord's blessed us with that. That's for sure.
Michael, you used the word mechanical there to describe the way a farmer should approach this type of marketing. What does that mean to you?
Oh yeah, to me, I mean, I think it starts first and foremost with blocking out some of the noise, right? I mean, we've got so many headlines, especially in today's social media driven world, right? We've got U.S.-China talk, Russia-Ukraine war. We've got weather models to look at, weather forecast, and there's just all this noise and fluff that we tend to pay attention to as an ag industry, whether it's myself as a grain buyer, originator, a merchandiser, or even the farm gate. But a lot of that stuff is out of our control, and we really don't know how that is going to impact the market day to day, week to week. And so from my seat, how I would handle it is, defining a cost of production. That's something tangible that we can work with and navigate around. And I think back to the business mindset I spoke to, really identifying what's our goals for the operation. We're running multi-million-dollar businesses. How can we identify ROI goals that help us kind of give us a roadmap of decision making throughout the growing season and what marketing opportunities lie ahead?
As just a generic example, it's going to be specific for each individual farmers. What might something like that appear to be?
Yeah, I think it starts with a stair-step approach. I mean, putting ourselves in the seat today, right? Think about June, July of 2025. If you look at some charts and history and some historicals, generally the best time to sell the next crop year is going to be in that May, June, July timeframe of the prior summer. Now, there's times where we can have some higher price levels, call it next summer for the 2026 crop. But the perfect example is, Dees corn of 26 was at 475 a month ago. We saw some 1085 bean opportunities, and that was an area that guys could have put a stake in the ground on 5-10% of their crop. Maybe look at some accumulator type strategies just to get started and put a stake in the ground to keep the banker happy and let him know that he's looking forward. So that's really where I would start. And with the current growing season, once you get a crop planted, work through April, May, June, July, kind of with a stair-step marketing approach, selling in percentages along the way. Along key USDA crop reports, as well as key growing seasonals that happen.
This can be a relatively difficult time as well for a farmer dealing with very thin margins and oftentimes uncertainty when it comes to the never-ending stream of news that appears to be falling into place. How does a farmer kind of cancel out the noise and focus on his business, what he's doing, and also, I guess, in a way, his mental health even a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great point, great question. I mean, I think what it comes down to is, knowing your numbers, writing this down, right? Like, let's define our cost of production, update it on regularly, plugging in, different yield scenarios, and then, from our seat at Landis, hopefully using strategies, coming up with a marketing plan, writing it down, and touching base with, hopefully an originator at Landis, and talking through these things. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I think an advisor or an originator in my role wears plenty of hats, and a lot of it is therapist sometimes talking a guy back down to a level playing field, and thinking through, hey, it could get worse, but we need to still manage business, and the reality of this year is we might not make money, and that's a tough pill to swallow, because most farmers we deal with are highly invested in the crop. They're emotional. This is their livelihood, and we respect that. But we also want to make sure, we're helping to make pretty good decisions, and dealing with a lot of that psychology aspect of it. They just need somebody to talk to sometimes, to be truthful.
I think this is a very human point where it is not just a farm thing, but also just a part of being human. And that is, I look at my own life when I deal with, a financial issue, or I'm thinking about it pretty hard, and I want to just keep it to myself. I don't want to bother anybody. But sometimes I've found when I have talked to people that I trust that, love me or care for what I do, I've found solutions that I didn't think of myself. And it can really be beneficial to just be a little open and figure out what to do by allowing a little bit of outside sourced ideas.
Yeah, no, 100%. I would agree. I think the best, instead of going into the shell, which is what we tend to do as humans, right? And the farmer's no different. Farming is a pretty isolated job. You spend a lot of time alone in a truck, in a semi, a combine, or out working cattle or something. And just to touch base once a week with someone like myself to talk about the markets, talk about, hey, things aren't as bad as they could be, and there's solutions, and really just being a sounding board, to your point, David, of just someone to talk to and walk through scenarios with, and pat them on the back and let them know everything's going to be okay. And we're going to get through this. Ag's cyclical with its ups and downs, and we're entering a tough stretch right now. There's no doubt, and there may be more tough stretch ahead. But I think we've seen this valley before, and we just need to make sure we're around for the peaks that lie ahead as well.
I'm thinking of a story I heard earlier this week, and it means a lot to me because I kind of feel the same way with some of my friends. But, I often don't want to reach out or talk to other people because I don't want to burden them. I don't want to bother them, annoy them with my problems. But the story was someone was talking to their friend, and they were just like, man, if I was ever in trouble, you would be someone I called. And their
Mm.
response was, I'd be mad if you didn't. And I think that that's really a good concept to keep in mind, that you do have people on your side that would be upset if you didn't take your problems to them, if they might have a way to help out or just be there to support you.
Yeah, no, 100%. I get that on a daily basis, right? I've only been in the state of Iowa for almost 2 years, but just the time I've been here, the relationships I've developed with some of the producers that I do work with, you can tell when something burdensome is on their mind, and they got to let it off their chest. And it's not easy living on this emotional roller coaster of grain marketing, because again, it is their livelihood. And so just being there for guys to be that sounding board, and voice of reason when times get tough, and kind of, we could all use a pat on the back, to your point, at some point. And that's truly what people in my position love to do, and help farmers.
Michael, you are working with a team, the Grow team with Landis. If folks have something on their mind they want to talk to you about over what we've discussed today, is there a way they could reach out, get a hold of you or your team?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So we've got a phone number that they could call, 515-800-GROW. That's 515-800-4769. You can go ahead and reach out to us there directly. You'll get have someone at a location, and then they could ask for myself or someone from the Grow Grain team to maybe help talk them through some strategies, marketing plans, and things like that.
Michael Weidner is the Grow Grain Team lead with Landis. Michael, thank you so much for joining with us on Farm Here Daily.
Yeah, thanks a lot, David. Really appreciate the time and opportunity today. Take care.
This is Farm Here Daily. We will have more conversations on the way, but first let's take a look at the marketplace. And the Wednesday marketplace closed mixed. September corn 2.5 cents up, 3.91 3/4. December rising a penny and a quarter at 4.12 1/4. Soybeans in August down 14 cents, 9.67 3/4, with September falling 13 3/4, 9.75 3/4. Soybean meal in August down $1 a ton at $260.70. September wheat down 6 cents, 5.23 3/4, with December falling 5 3/4 at 5.44 1/4. The livestock market saw a bit more green at the Wednesday close. August live cattle up $3.35 a hundredweight, $233.07. October $3.27 more, $229.72. Feeder cattle in August $2.75 higher, $338.95, with September rising $2.67 at $339.75. Lean hogs in August down 22 cents a hundredweight, $107.02, with October up 47 cents, $89.20 a hundredweight. That is the Wednesday market close. This is Farm Here Daily. And joining me on Farm Here Daily, we have Reese Drenth. He is with Ground Level Dispatch, and we chatted with your colleague John King last week and had a good time talking about what's going on and what you guys are doing. But as a reminder, Reese, first let's talk about what you guys are up to and also just what you guys are all about.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Ground Level Dispatch is I guess, information service. There's plenty of them out there, but ours is different in the stance that our grain market and agronomy market analysis comes out twice a day. And the point of it is like a 2 to 5 minute read. So, we all kind of get bogged down by information, whether it's the news or it's Twitter, X, or it's various different email subscriptions, podcast subscriptions, what have you. Our whole objective is to break everything down into 2 to 5 minutes. You can get on with the important information that you need. And then we also write a few monthly editorials. So like this past weekend, where we try to do that 2 to 3 times a month on Sundays. And this past weekend, we wrote just some of our observations about the crop that is growing out in our backyards here rapidly and rampantly, and just some thoughts on potential risks to that crop and also potential risk to flat price because of how big that crop is perceived. So that's our objective: quick, easy, readable information during the week, and then on the weekend when there's some time to sit back and relax, a bit more detail.
Wonderful. When you guys are up to that, I think of something that could be pretty valuable for farmers, and that is the basis level, the cash market side of things, and that can sometimes be really important during this time of thin margins.
Yeah, good point. So like my background is in grain merchandising. So I was a merchandiser, a trader for one of the largest grain companies in Iowa. That's where I cut my teeth. So, a lot of what is driving both futures and basis today, which is kind of unique in some sense, is this perceived large crop that we have out in our backyard. So, a lot of people, the most complex functionality or system in our marketplace is basis bids along our export systems, the Illinois River and the Mississippi River. A lot of times people don't give enough credit to the movements of those cash bids on those river systems and how they impact futures. At the moment, we're seeing the weakest cash bid structures on corn and beans along our river systems that we have in the last 12 months. Why is that happening? Well, first and foremost, it's harvest along the river system, especially down south. So Louisiana, Mississippi, southern Missouri, Arkansas, people are picking corn, okay, and it's very, very good. And farmers down there are not used to very, very good corn yields. So what does a farmer do with very, very good corn yields? They sell it. They take it right to the river and they sell it. And so if you can picture a map of the U.S. along the Mississippi River, if you have farmers down south selling the bejesus out of their corn crop, that means bids up north into Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Ohio, where have you, are going to struggle because the end point on our river system is the Gulf of Mexico, and they're getting plenty of corn and plenty of beans.
And they're a lot closer.
Right? So like, why do you need to pay an Illinois farmer or process or elevator more when you're getting your needs met in Louisiana itself, right? So that's part A of why, futures are getting their teeth kicked in because of cash prices. Part B is due to South America. So we all know, we've written about it all year, we've heard about it all year. South America had a huge bean crop and they have a big corn crop. We're seeing lots and lots of boats being sold to China of soybeans from Brazil. And over the weekend, we had Argentina permanently reduce export taxes on their exports. So when an Argentinian farmer sells beans to the government, they get taxed and then they get shipped. And that's been a barrier of entry for Argentinian exports. Because if you're a farmer, why do I want to pay the government more for my beans? Or excuse me, why do I want paid less for my beans because the government takes more off the top? The Argentinian government lowered that tax, which incentivized the farmer to sell more beans. And so we're probably going to see more Argentinian beans being sold into the Southeast Asian markets and the Chinese markets as well. The problem with that is that we're learning that the Chinese are buying August, September, and October soybeans from Brazil. That's our Super Bowl. That's our market share that is being taken away. So that's not friendly for beans. We are worried now also that eventually the Brazilians will get to selling corn into Chinese and Southeast Asian markets as well. Because for the last 2 months, even though they've been picking corn in Brazil, the volume of soybeans that they're moving has been so robust that they haven't had room to sell corn boats because they do struggle with handling 2 crops. Their logistics systems are not nearly as reliable as the U.S. is. So once the soybeans kind of tail off, if the Chinese are going to buy world corn, or folks like Japan or South Korea or the EU are going to buy world corn, we're going to have some serious competition with Brazilian corn that hasn't moved yet that will want to move on the export market. So cash markets matter, especially this time of year. And there's some real risk in these cash markets. We've already seen them deteriorate rapidly. There's risk that they deteriorate more. And that eventually impacts futures. And that's kind of what we're seeing here to start the week.
I want to delve into 2 points that I've been hearing a lot of and what you think of them. And one was, while Brazil is getting some purchases, they are still a logistical nightmare. They're not transporting their crop efficiently. And so that is a reason that it's not too concerning yet. Not saying that that's the truth. That's just what I hear. And then the other one is Brazil is using more of its corn and product domestically. So their increase in production was not going to be seen as much on the global front. Are either of those valid to your and what you've been seeing?
Both of those points are valid, right? Corn in particular, their domestic use is going to increase as Brazil's got better biofuel policies and ethanol blending policies than the United States does. So they're going to use more corn for sure domestically, but I think that point underestimates the volume of the crop that they grew this year.
Right.
And again, my fear is that, once the beans get out of the way, there's going to be pent up corn that has to move somewhere, and the domestic market can't capture all of that. So yeah, they'll use more corn domestically, but there's real risk. If you remember, if you take the clock back 10 months to October, November, December of 2024, when we start to see prices come off the lows of last fall, is export driven. U.S. corn exports have been phenomenal all year. What I'm saying is that there's real risk now because of the size of the Brazilian corn crop, despite their domestic use, that story does not play out again. As far as the logistics system in Brazil, they're getting better and better every year, every day, really. But again, like they just have problems handling exporting two different crops at their ports. So there could be some hiccups, which could be some opportunity for the U.S., but the overall trend is not our friend.
Right. Don't hedge your bets.
And eventually
on that.
they figure it out, and that's not our, yeah. They're, I mean, the more business they do, the more incentive they have to figure that stuff out. The more money they have to figure that stuff out.
Reese, Drenth with Ground Level Dispatch. You can find more information on their newsletter, what they send out every day, 2 times a day. Reese, we're going to get a promo code for you guys next week, I believe. So we'll hold tight on that. But in the meantime, if folks are still interested in taking a look at what you guys got and what you guys are doing, how would they find you?
You bet. So you can find us at groundleveldispatch.substack.com. That's groundleveldispatch.substack.com. In the meantime, before we get our Farm Here Daily promo code set up, and subscription, our subscription offering is free for 30 days. And so we would love to have as many of you as possible sign up, give us a try, and let us know what you think.
Reese, thank you so much for joining us on Farm Here Daily.
Thanks for having me.
This is Farm Here Daily, a Field Forward podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Again, in order to continue to produce this type of local content, we would love to have you join our community. So please follow the podcast as well as our social media channels at Field Forward Pod. You can also find me on social media at Geiger Reports, as well as WHO TV Channel 13 every weekday in their morning and noon hour programs. Again, I am your host, David Geiger, and I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody.